I have a problem. I am extremely critically, clinically ill. I am suffering from a condition known as Worldbuilders Disease. Worldbuilders Disease is a thing writers talk about when specifically you are world building and never actually getting to writing your story. Instead of actually putting words to paper, you're just adding more things and going even deeper into the world and lore than you probably need to, if we're being totally honest. Now, here's a bit of my experience with Worldbuilders Disease on a specific world that I'm making, and it's gone completely off the rails of what it was originally intended to be. Which is fine, because I like what it's starting to turn into, but it has really grown in a couple years. A couple of years ago, I had this story idea. This story idea was about a guy who uses this magic system that he doesn't have to perform some sort of heist or something of that nature. Very Ocean's 11-esque. And I had the magic system as an idea that completely shaped like the subgenre of this story. I was like, great, this is awesome. I like this idea. I think this could be a really cool thing. But as I explored the very concept of the magic system, I started to ask more questions about it. And I also started to ask more questions of how it integrated itself into society, which is a very good thing to do when you're world building, and that's a great thing that people will love in your stories. However, for this story that was supposed to be a movie, it is now a multi-season show, and instead of having one magic system, it has three, and it's going completely off the rails. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with adding all this stuff. I'm okay with the idea of it being a multi-season show. I'm actually quite happy with how the plotting of it is going with the direction I foresee. Where I think I'm having Worldbuilders Disease is I'm adding things instead of redeveloping what I've already thought of, which can be very, very dangerous, especially when this is a story about a character exploiting a magic system. That means you want a magic system that can be pretty well understood by the characters in your story. Not saying that this can't be a soft magic system or a magic system without a lot of rules, but it is very compelling and very interesting to have a magic system that is filled to the brim with rules and constrictions so that your characters can understand exactly how it applies in their lives, but also find ways that they never thought before of how they could use this magic system to solve problems. This is why I personally really like The Laws of Magic by Brandon Sanderson, because I think it implements itself really well into the kinds of things I really like when I make magic systems and when I make stories about magic systems or characters who have access to the magic system. And here I am adding all these things without actually adding the rules and the details to this initial magic system that is probably one of the most important elements of world building in this show. Because if this point of world building is not properly done, if it's not properly made, then the whole show falls apart, because the whole show hinges on this idea and the way that this idea affects the society of this story. Now, the reason why I'm making this video is because I specifically want to focus on writing the magic system today. So I figured this video would not only be a pretty easy video to make and hopefully get out of the way in an earlier portion of my day, but it's also allowing me to have more focus on the idea and be even now thinking of this is what I want to get done today. Thankfully, I feel like I've studied enough about writing to where I understand that less is more in most cases. And so it really helped me catch myself when I was starting to add these new ideas when I hadn't even fleshed out the current ideas. So that's something I would say you should keep in mind as well, is before you are ready to implement new ideas, try fleshing out the current ideas you already have established already. Because sometimes that can even lend you to being able to figure out new ideas that will lend themselves well to your story, because it just seems like a natural causation of the thing you're adding. Or the thing you're adding is a natural causation of something else, and that's the thing you would add next. But ultimately, when it comes to world building, the most important things you need to flesh out are the very premise things. For my story, that's the who is the main character, why is the main character motivated, and you know what drives the things that makes him motivated. What's this magic system? How does it implement people in their daily lives? And that can completely restructure a society and a world that you're building, and I can tell because that's what happened in mine. I didn't just decide 3 magic systems would be really cool for a story. It's just kind of the natural causation of this initial magic system and the way it implemented in this world that I was building. Now, if you're struggling fleshing out a certain piece of world building, and that's why you're adding in new pieces like I am, I don't know if I have completely solid advice, because this is something I was just thinking about today, but my approach today is going to be focus on the things that I like about this idea and start fleshing out those things, and then start refining from there. Is there an element of the magic system that seems really cool? Explore that element. Even if you don't really like what ends up there, you can just toss that out and start from scratch, but at least you'll have more of a foundation to build off of, and it will help you create the rest.